Hello kids, good evening. Hope you all are fine and staying safe at home. So, are you all surprised to see my board? I didn't write anything on it. But now I'm writing and I'm writing what happened to my board. My board was extremely clean. Now this is what I've written and this is how my board looked. So now let's analyze each part of the sentence with various parts of speech used. So first is board. What do you think board word is? Yes, it's a noun. And next is clean. What about clean? Well, clean is an adjective. Very good. Clean is an adjective. And now we come to extremely. What is extremely in the sentence? What is the purpose of extremely? What is extremely doing in the sentence? Well, I believe and I'm able to understand that extremely is modifying, adding more meaning to the adjective clean. So it is modifying and adding more meaning to the adjective clean. So such words which modify and add more meaning to the adjectives, such words, what are they called as? Think, what are these words called as? Ones who modify adjectives? Well, these words are called as adverbs. Yes, these words are called as adverbs. Now, if you will read the word adverbs slowly, you will understand and that it has been formed with two words. First thing which we have understood right now is adverbs modify adjectives. Now we'll understand what else the adverbs do. What is the other thing they do? So as I was saying that they are formed with two words. So it is add plus verbs. So adding more meaning to verbs, modifying verbs. Is this the only thing the adverbs are going to do? No, they are going to do more work. They have more work to do. Now, what about the entire word adverbs? Yes, one is they modify adjectives, second is they modify verbs, and now if we look at it as a whole thing, then they modify adverbs also. They modify adverbs also. So kids, adverbs are those words which modify. Adverbs are those words, they are those, it's a part of speech describing words which modify adjectives. They modify adjectives, they modify verbs, and not only this, they modify adverbs also. So this is the purpose of adverbs. This is where they are and how they are used. Now let's look at the another sentence. The boy ran very fast. Now here, my very, I know the boy is the noun, we all know. Ran is a verb, we know. Now, how did the boy run? Fast. And I am using very also here. So they are modifying, an adverb fast, which is already an adverb. It's talking about the action, how did he run? And I'm talking about that the adverbs are also modifying another adverb. So we have used very. So here when I was talking about how, so these are the few adverbs which we can use, like quietly. He was sitting quietly in the class, peacefully. He was sitting peacefully. Carefully. You should complete your work carefully. Slowly. Tortoise runs slowly. How did the tortoise run? Slowly. So they are talking about how. They are talking about how. Now we look at the second one also. After this, we look into the next kinds of adverbs. But remember, adverbs, the ones which answer the question how. Now the second we are going to look into is they're talking when, time. So these are the ones which modify the action of, they modify the action of time, modify the time of action or action of time. So these are those adverbs. So we have done how and we have done when. Now we look into the third kind, third question which they answer. That is, third question which they answer is where. Where does this action takes place? It's modifying. Is it above? Oh, he lives far from my place. He's standing outside. He's standing outside. So I'm modifying outside using, modifying standing, his action using outside. Backwards, behind, below. So these are different adverbs which fall under the category of where. Now it is how much, how often, enormously, extremely. Remember the first sentence? My boat was extremely clean. Rather, almost. Then we used very also. He ran very fast. So these are how much, almost. These are answering the questions how much clean was it? It was extremely clean. How much work is done? Almost all of the work is done. Now next we have is how often. I'm always on time. I'm sometimes on time. I often get late. I often reach on time. So how often? It's talking about the frequency. Frequently, normally. So it's talking about the frequency of the action. It's modifying frequency action of words. Verbs. So this is the purpose of adverbs. This is the purpose of adverbs. How? Then we have when. Then we have where. We have how much. And last but not the least, we have how often. How often an action is taking place. So let's look into another example and let's see how much we have been able to understand, and we'll be able to form adverbs also on our own. So let's look into it and let's recapitulate also what we have understood. So we'll find the adverbs in the given sentence. We'll find the adverbs in the given sentence. So the sentence is yesterday. It is yesterday we very carefully planted pretty flowers. So yesterday we very carefully planted pretty flowers. Now, you can pause the video, you can just mark the answers, write the words quickly, and you can check your understanding. So you have to find the adverbs in the given sentence. So now when we are finding the adverbs, we'll see which words are modifying the actions. So first we look for the action, then we look for the time. Like yesterday, it's the time. When did we plant? Yesterday. How did we plant? Very carefully. How did we plant? Very carefully. So first is when, then is how did we plant? Very carefully. And do you think is there any adverb here? No, because pretty is describing flowers. So pretty is an adjective. It is not an adverb. Now we have, we look into another thing. How do we form adverbs? How do we form adverbs? Like the first example we'll take, it is quietly. Now if we divide this, into two parts, quiet is an adjective. Quiet is an adjective, and if I add ly to it, it becomes quietly. It becomes quietly. Let's look at another example also. Let's look at it. Let's look at peacefully now. So you'll see peace, peaceful plus ly. It becomes peacefully. So peaceful plus ly. Peaceful plus ly will become peacefully. So let's write and let's see it. Let's write and understand. So peaceful plus ly is equal to peacefully. So this is how we form adverbs, by adding ly to the adjectives, like careful plus carefully, slow plus slow, ly slowly, bad plus ly badly. Now well and fast, they are adverbs which are irregular adverbs basically. Now let's look at the other ones, like enormous plus ly enormously, extreme plus ly extremely, then fair plus ly fairly, frequent plus ly frequently, normal plus ly normally. There are more, like general plus ly generally, and then seldom and never, they are irregular adverbs. So this is how we form adverbs, by adding ly to the adjectives. So it is easy to form adjectives, adverbs from the adjective. Now, let's look into how to add adverbs in the given sentence. So we are going to modify a sentence here, and we'll understand how and where we can be adding adverbs to modify it. So the sentence which I'm writing here is, the dog wagged his tail. The dog wagged his tail and jumped. Now, you need to remember that adverbs can be used either before the verbs or it can be used after the verbs. So first of all, let's identify the verbs here, because we don't find an adjective here. Then we find the verbs here. So the verbs used here are, it's wagged and jumped. So pause the video and write adverbs which will be modifying wagged and jumped. So you'll have to write two adverbs which will modify wagged and jumped. So you can take 10 seconds thinking about words and then writing them. So let's begin. Now we'll add an adverb before wagged here. We'll add an adverb before wagged, and we will write, now it is the dog wagged. How did the dog wag his tail? Basically, this is the question which I'm answering. The dog happily wagged his tail. The dog happily wagged his tail. Now the second question which I'm answering is, how did he jump? And jumped excitedly. No, not here. And excitedly jumped. No, it's not, it's not the appropriate position. And jumped excitedly. So I have to modify his action here. Earlier I am modifying his tail, that how did he wag his tail. Now you can also write, the dog wagged, his tail happily. Possible. Here and jumped excitedly, you will have excitedly written after jumped only, not before jumped. It will be after jumped. The dog happily wagged his tail and jumped excitedly. So this is how we add an adverb in the given sentence. So this is just modifying the sentence which we have, and with this we'll be able to, I hope you've been able to understand it. So let's quickly, recap it, that, we can add ly to the adjectives forming adverbs, and how, when, where, how often, and much, how much, they are the kinds of adverbs.